Welcome to the last tutorial. My name is Hannah Larsen and the theme of this module is multicultural teamwork. Companies rely increasingly on teams made up of people with highly diverse backgrounds. A key challenge facing modern organizations is how best to make use of the diversity that exists in their companies. Differences between team members, particularly in global teams, can be seen at several levels, such as profession, culture, personality and role, as well as organization. These differences can help improve the performance of the team, but can also be the source of conflict depending on the way the team deals with the differences. Therefore, this tutorial will focus on what may affect the cooperation in multicultural teams, strategies for multicultural teams including task and process strategies, and furthermore I'll finish off by putting forward ideas for discussion within a multicultural team. As discussed in previous tutorials, we interpret other people's behavior within the framework of the values, beliefs and norms of our own culture, and so do they. This means that reaching agreement can be more difficult in teams. Communication is in general more difficult. Building trust and respect is more difficult and more time-consuming. And also that it can be stressful to work in multicultural teams. What may then affect the cooperation in multicultural teams? In the following, I'll discuss some of the overall issues of multicultural teamwork. Team members may have very similar or quite different backgrounds, and the combination of national and organizational cultures may have a great impact on the cooperation within the team. Therefore, teams should not ignore or minimize cultural differences. A multicultural team could, for instance, be made up of one distinct culture of, say, 5 Danes, plus one member coming from a different culture, or the team might consist of equal numbers of members from various cultures. Therefore, management or a team leader need to consider whether they succeed in making all team members feel included, or whether some members may feel there is a bias towards the norms of one particular culture. Team members may be motivated by different factors depending on their personality and cultural background. So to avoid tension and to ensure that team members are committed to the task at hand, it's important to understand different motivational patterns across cultures. For instance, in the United States, team members are likely to be motivated by individual performance, whereas in Korea, cooperative rewards may improve performance. This can be explained by the fact that employees in collectivist cultures such as Japan, Taiwan, or Korea would not respond well to the typical American merit-based reward system to motivate employees, because that would go against the traditional value system and would disrupt the harmony and corporate culture. The team members bring different skills, knowledge and approaches to the task at hand. This can be highly motivational and can improve the quality of the outcome if the team members succeed in combining their different strengths. However, it may also cause problems due to the power struggles and misunderstandings that may occur. Therefore, what is needed is a clear definition of the uses of the various skills and job functions in relation to the goal. And besides, the manager or team leader must ensure common respect and a positive acknowledgement of all team members' skills. Team members may have different expectations and values related to their own and other team members' participation and behavior in the team. This could decide whether an employee expects to work closely with other team members or more independently, or how often should the team meet in person. Another issue is whether team members expect relations to be strictly professional or to extend to more personal friendship ties as well. These aspects are closely linked with individualist and collectivist values and are also influenced by team members being more task or relationship focused. Teams work increasingly more in different geographic locations, and so they may communicate primarily through email or teleconferences. These technologies no doubt offer a number of advantages, but they also pose some disadvantages. For instance, that it is more difficult and takes much longer to establish trust because the team members don't meet face to face. It's also more difficult to coordinate work, And on top of that, differences in national and organizational cultures may complicate the communication. And therefore it's very important to set standards for communicating online. So the key question is how it's possible to create team identity and stimulate a process that enables you to build a cohesive team and find a style of operation that suits all team members despite the cultural differences. The solution to creating a positive and balanced team culture is to encourage team members to discuss their expectations to the task and to the process of building a team. They must remember not to rush to start work, but to take time to build strong relations with each other. These aspects also include surfacing cultural differences and allowing a discussion. What are then the task strategies for managing multicultural teams? One of the most important elements of successful teams is having a shared sense of purpose. Members of diverse teams generally have more difficulty agreeing on their purpose and task than members of homogeneous teams. Global teams often experience problems because members from different countries do not clearly understand each other's purpose, goal, and strategy. To ensure effectiveness, managers need to help the team agree on their vision or a superordinate goal, a goal that is defined broadly and goes beyond individual differences. Superordinate goals that require collaboration usually decrease prejudice and increase mutual respect. The perceived purpose of the team will determine who need to be involved. For instance, in task-oriented cultures, only those who are directly concerned and with the appropriate knowledge and skills will be invited. In cultures where hierarchy is important, members may be assigned to teams because of their power and influence in the organization. Furthermore, the team members may not share the same sense of priorities. For example, some members may feel that it's more important to meet time deadlines, while others are more concerned with achieving higher quality despite possible delays, and therefore potential differences must be discussed. Setting agendas is one area where cultural differences may cause confusion and friction. Cultures differ as to whether there is a need for setting an agenda for a meeting at all, or whether the agenda is expected to develop during the meeting. For instance, in Germany, where they have a high uncertainty avoidance and are monochronic, the agenda plays a critical role, and participants are reluctant to deviate from the agenda. This is opposite to France, where they do not appreciate following a systematic one thing at a time agenda. Instead, they tend to talk about different issues at once and prefer to compare them together. Depending on whether team members are monochronic or polychronic, and whether they have a high or low uncertainty avoidance, may also decide to what extent they find that specific rules are required to interact with each other. And this may decide whether there is a need for agreeing on exactly what tasks should be carried out and by whom. Monochronic and polychronic aspects of course also affect the approach to time management, as well as the importance of meeting deadlines, and what should happen if deadlines are not met. For instance, in polychronic France, meetings often have a specific start time, but no end time. The team must decide who is to do what. In more individualistic cultures, team members often prefer to split up tasks and work on their own. They tend to feel constrained by teams and have little patience when it comes to trying to understand others' point of view and having to reach consensus. As opposed to that, in more collectivist cultures, they would expect the work of the group to be done together. They may not keep accounts of who did what and are reluctant to assert their own ideas above those of the others. Whether the team members expect a leader to be assigned may depend on their cultural background as well. Also, the criteria according to which a leader should be selected must be taken into consideration. Should it be according to his or her competences, interpersonal skills, or hierarchical position? For instance, in Germany, a team leader must demonstrate technical competence to have credibility. The roles and responsibilities of team leaders and team members also differ considerably between cultures. In hierarchical cultures, the team leader is expected to chair the sessions and have the final word on any decisions. For instance, in France, managers have difficulty believing that a group can make a decision that is the boss's job. In more egalitarian cultures, team members may rotate, chairing the meetings, and decisions are expected to be reached through consensus. Consequently, the role of and the expectations to the team leader must be clarified among team members. Culture also influences how teams prefer to make decisions through majority rule, consensus, or compromise. Opinions may differ as to which tool is the most useful one, depending on the degree of individualism or collectivism, and of high and low context values among team members. For instance, voting is often used in the UK, where it's considered to demonstrate egalitarian and individualist values. But voting also creates winners and losers, which may create problems in cultures where consensus is valued and saving face is more important. Who is then expected to make the decisions in the team? As discussed previously, the attitude towards this aspect may differ considerably depending on the team members' values, and this is a question that the team has to agree on. In the following, I'll discuss the process strategies for building multicultural teams. Building trust is considered to be universally important, but it's built and maintained in different ways. For instance, Danes tend to trust others first until they are proven wrong. For Germans, the reverse is generally the case. Danes usually build trust by being friendly and informal. Germans build trust by proving competence and demonstrating technical knowledge. So team building efforts and activities must reflect the cultures of the team members in order to be effective. This includes considerations regarding the team members' approach to high versus low context communication and whether they are task or relationship oriented. Diversity can cause problems because when all members do not fluently speak the team's working language, communication is slowed down and misinterpretations may occur. In many teams, disagreement often remains hidden as members assume they interpret things similarly, when in fact the opposite is the case. Therefore, it's important to decide on a working language that is acceptable to all team members. Choice of working language may cause frictions, since some team members may feel their mastery of the language in question is considerably weaker than that of other team members, and consequently that they feel at a disadvantage. An imbalance in levels of fluency can be addressed by continuously summarizing and rephrasing questions and monitoring that everyone understands the same thing by what is being said and agreed. Here, team members also need to take advantage of their cultural knowledge, for instance, on whether it is appropriate to interrupt each other or how directly one should communicate an opinion. It's essential to make sure that all team members are heard, despite differences in language fluency and in cultural values, for instance, regarding power, hierarchy, and direct or indirect communication patterns. Sometimes cultural differences are interpreted as personality problems. A team member may be considered difficult by being very silent or by forcefully arguing his or her point of view, when in fact he or she is merely communicating in accordance with certain cultural norms. For teams to function effectively, they need to establish ways of resolving conflicts. This may present a problem for multicultural teams because of the team members' different norms and values. Certain preferences exist in various cultures for resolving conflicts by, for instance, reaching compromises, being confrontational, or trying to avoid entering a conflict at all. For instance, in individualistic cultures with high power distance, such as in France, conflicts are often managed first through avoidance and next confrontation. In countries like Sweden, where power is supposed to be shared equally and where there is more concern for the quality of relationships and mutual gain, a conflict is more likely to be resolved through collaboration. Consequently, it's important for the team members and the team leader to make a joint agreement on which conflicts need to be addressed and how. In any team, it's necessary to evaluate progress continuously, both regarding the task and the process. However, evaluating performance may cause tensions, as some cultures are more prepared to give and receive feedback than others. As discussed earlier, the cultural values may decide how a manager and the employees interact with each other, and consequently these aspects must also be taken into consideration when working together in a multicultural team. In Britain, for instance, where communication is less direct, critical feedback is likely to be hidden in humor. And in many Asian cultures, feedback is often indirect and may be given outside the workplace, and certainly not in a team meeting. For instance, in Japan, team members may be able to address issues while drinking together after office hours. Therefore, it's necessary to agree on ways of giving feedback and discussing the team's interaction. Learning about cultural value dimensions may also provide the team members with the necessary background knowledge to talk about their differences. This should allow them to find ways of describing and bringing differences to the surface in ways that are not personally threatening. For further ideas on useful points for discussion in a team of multicultural employees, please go to the list of questions that you'll find after this module. Thank you for watching this tutorial on multicultural teamwork.